ghosts real? Several recent encounters suggest there might be more things in heaven and earth than we can dream of.
So are werewolves just a Hollywood creation, or do half-man, half-wolf creatures really exist? Now, tonight, we kick off our Conspiracy Theory Month series, which was a...
The legend of the vampire actually goes back for centuries, and it exists in some form or another in almost every culture. In fact, some people believe the first vampire story was in the Bible.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along.
Try and clear up an ancient mystery with the help of a prominent veterinarian who says she can prove that Bigfoot exists and that he's related to all of us.
New reports, 5 pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys podcast. I'm your host, Frater Crow.
I'm your co-host, Daniel James.
And we want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Tonight is the season finale of Season 2, and it is also an Oddworld episode. And for those that have listened to us over the last 2 seasons, you know what that means. If you are new to us, I'll explain a little bit on that. Oddworld is a segment that we do where people call in from around the world to share with us their experiences with the supernatural, the paranormal, and the unexplained. So we'll be taking on 3 selected callers tonight, hearing their stories and what it is that they have to say, what they've experienced, and then Daniel and myself will give some thoughts back and forth on that. As always, whether new or a return listener to the show, we do want to thank you. Listen where you feel most comfortable. We air across all platforms: Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Spreaker, you name it, we're on it. If you would like to not only listen but also chat with us during the show through Instant Messenger feature, you can do that through our hosting company, which is Spreaker, and that is Spreaker. They have not only a Spreaker app and the app market that you can download, but you can go right to their website and do it as well. Just search Celestial Oddities, and that'll allow you to listen to the show and talk with us during the show. If you're someone that just wants to listen, like I said, listen where you feel comfortable. Click the like, share, and follow button on whatever platform you're listening to us from. Helps us get ourselves out there a little bit more, helps more people to discover the show, moves us up the rankings, keeps you in the loop with new episodes as they air, and gives you unfiltered access to our past archives. There is something for absolutely everyone who loves the strange and unusual, whether it's Daniel and I deep diving into specific topics, cryptids, paranormal events, to bringing on great guests and interviewing them, to shows like tonight where we take on listeners from around the world and hear what it is that they have to say. So, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Daniel, I'm excited not only to hear what, everyone has to say tonight, because, folks, we don't know these stories. These are people that we selected. They're going to surprise us along with you as they call in. So I'm always, very excited to hear these stories, and certainly excited to finish out what has been a wonderful season.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. I love these call-in episodes. We have 3 guests who are excited to share a story, and we look forward to, doing more of these call-in episodes on the next season. So we hope you guys enjoy it, and I think we'll go ahead and get right in on the special guests.
Yeah, so let me pull up my first one, and while we're doing that, let me just say that if you haven't caught all the episodes this season, make sure you jump back through the different episodes that we have had. We've just deep dived into so much content this season. Like I said, from interviews to phone calls to specific subject matter. I really, really enjoyed Season 2, so thank you so much. I recently made the announcement that my other shows I am stepping away from, but the show that I am continuing to keep going is Celestial Oddities, so you guys can bank on the fact that there will be a Season 3 in the near future, sometime at the beginning portion of next year. Give a few-month break, allow people to catch up to the old episodes, then jump right back in it, folks, with some great new content. If you have anything that you would like us to speak about next season, feel free to join our Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys podcast page on Facebook. We have a community there where you can leave us messages, talk with us, drop content of your own. It's just a great community that we can all talk amongst ourselves, and we always love hearing the topics and discussions that you guys would love to hear from us. So don't be shy. Feel free to jump in and do so. So we are going to go ahead and get ready for our first caller this evening, and her name is Sierra, and I'm going to pull her up here. And we're going to hope that this goes according to plan, because sometimes with these call-in shows, it's a little wacky. So we're going to see what happens. But I have everything set up here, so let's give her a call.
Hello.
Hello, is this Sierra?
Yes.
Hi, Sierra. This is Frater Crow from Celestial Oddities Radio. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Daniel, can you hear Sierra?
Yes.
And Sierra, can you hear Daniel?
Yes.
Oh, we're on fire tonight, folks. It's working properly. You know, that's the way it's usually supposed to go, but for some reason I feel like the gods are against us sometimes. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight, Sierra, and coming on the show. We're very excited to hear your story and hear what it is that you have to share with us, and certainly give, myself and Daniel give his input on, the experience. So feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and you can jump right into it.
My name is Sierra. I'm from McDonald, Pennsylvania. So, going off my story of last time as the Wendigo, or I like to call them flesh runners, because we don't actually say the name because my family is native. I've actually seen it again since our last time talking. My cousin and I go camping a lot and hiking a lot. And the last time that we went hiking, we both actually experienced our names being called in the middle of the forest with no one around us.
Wow. How did that make you feel when that happened? I mean, was it a complete shock? Were you in fear, or were you more curious?
Oh, I was terrified. Trigger response was like the goosebumps and the hair raising on the back of the neck, and I just looked at him and I was like, listen, I know we're not calling each other right next to each other. He's like, did you invite a third person? Are you messing with me? I'm like, no, not messing with you. And it was weird, because we saw a deer earlier that day. And, it had no fear. It was, staring us down. And I even made a joke to him about it being, a not deer, and that I expected to get up on two legs and start charging after us. We both laughed and just walked away.
Well, maybe something was listening to you during that time when you said that and said, you know what, well, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with these guys.
It was not fun.
Now, was that your first personal experience that you ever had with something like that, or is this something you've had happen before, but maybe not specifically that?
The first time I had saw it in the woods behind my parents' house. They live right in Oakdale. And I was sitting on our porch swing when I saw the red eyes and that, furry being just looking at me, and I just ran up my driveway. I was alone the first time.
Now, when this happened to you the second time, the time in the woods with your friend, I mean, what time of evening would you say this was?
It was mid-afternoon. I'd say about 2 or 3.
Now, were you guys planning on staying the night in the woods and then you left after that, or did you still stay?
Oh, no, we still stayed.
Okay. Anything else happen throughout the rest of the evening?
Our fire went out. It looked like someone had dumped water on it in the middle of the night. And there were just kicked up leaves and dirt all around the tent that we were sleeping in.
Interesting. It makes me wonder, did it die it out because it didn't like the fire, or did it die it out to take away your visibility of anything in its surroundings, making you, in essence, helpless? Because if you take away one's main power source of light, it can see in the dark much better than we can. So it gives it the upper hand.
Yeah, it definitely takes away the sense of security that it provided.
Now, how far out were you?
Are you familiar with the Allegheny National Forest?
Yes.
We were at the Clarion River campsite.
Okay. It's a pretty remote forest area there. I'm a big fan of Allegheny National Forest. I've spent some time there with my wife and kids and went camping there myself and hiking. And I find it to be a very beautiful set of woods and forest. And I also find it to be very dense. So it would make sense that if there is some type of cryptid creature, whether it be, I won't say the name, a skin being, as you mentioned, or it be a Yeti of some sort, there is a high potentiality of something in that set of forest just because of the density and size of it. I mean, it's easy to get lost hiking there. I mean, there's several times where I was in the midst of hiking and looked around and I'm like, wait a second, which direction do we need to be going in right now? And it's just so dense that you can really, it wouldn't take much to get discombobulated and lose yourself.
Thankfully, someone gave me a map before I went up there. We're actually going back this weekend. So I'm kind of nervous but excited.
You know what though, you have to face your fear. I tell people, even if you've had one of these type of experiences, you shouldn't look at it as a negative. You should look at it as, why did this thing allow you to experience it if it didn't want you to find out more? I'm obviously, and Daniel and I both kind of touch different sides of the spectrum on supernatural occurrences. But for myself, I oftentimes spend a lot of time alone or with groups that I take out and teach or join on the paranormal side. And I have just phenomenal mind-shattering experiences. And instead of running from that, I always try to jump in deeper and deeper because why? Why have I been allowed to see the things that I have? There has to be a deeper reasoning to it. So I give you kudos for going back out there again despite what has happened, and I hope, maybe you don't want it to happen, but I hope something great happens this weekend, some type of wild experience that'll stick with you the rest of your life. But Daniel, what are your thoughts?
So I'll start with, for those who don't know me, Sierra and I are neighbors. So are you saying that these things are like right outside our houses around here?
Yeah, like 5 minutes away. My parents live like right down the road.
That's pretty wild. Now, did you say you physically saw the creature?
Yeah, the first time. The second
That's
time.
Fascinating.
I don't know if that was an actual deer that we saw, but I wasn't sticking around to find out.
Oh, that's really cool. There's always going to be stories of these creatures that are local to people in their own geography, and sometimes there are different beings that seem to be local, that are, local legends. There's always a lore about them in different geographical areas, but these particular beings, I thought that they were sort of more so like further east Pennsylvania, all the way to like New Jersey area. I haven't heard of them being seen around here.
I know New Mexico and Utah are like really big for them because of the Navajo reservations, but I didn't think they'd be here either.
And you're native as well. What tribe do you belong to? What is your nationality?
I'm Crow, Cherokee, and Blackfoot.
Very cool. Yeah, that's right. We talked about this because I'm Blackfoot as well.
What I wanted to ask you, Sierra, do you think that might have been part of the reason that you were allowed to maybe see this creature the first time and the second time it called out your name because of your lineage, that it wanted to communicate with you? Because there are heavy ties of skinwalkers with Native Americans, and whether it good or bad, there has always been a very strong connection there between the two. Do you believe that might be why you have been able to experience these occurrences, or do you think it's just a rare one-off and that's just ironic that you are?
Oh no, I think it follows me. I have shamans in my family, and I've practiced shamanism the past couple of years. I think it's permanently attached to me in some sort of way.
maybe possibly even of some sort being from your own lineage, because, you know, it could have been a shaman at one point in time in your family line long ago who, for one reason or another, did turn to the darker matters of shamanism and magic and could have possibly become a skinwalker. You know, which does happen and has happened. Obviously, I'm a very firm believer in the phenomena of skinwalkers. There's a lot of people say, "Oh, are they real? Or are they not real?" I believe they're absolutely real, and I find it fascinating because I am a black magic practitioner, and I have someone who has done a very dark side of magic for a very, very long time, and I've always found it very fascinating that is an element that someone like myself can't seem to tap specifically into that. Not that I necessarily want to, but when you bring the Native American background in, there's a gateway there that is able to be tapped into with shape-shifting that a normal practitioner cannot tap into. Fascinating.
Definitely a crazy experience.
It makes me ponder on it. I mean, you know, is it because of the bloodline, or is there just secrets within that magic that no one knows? You know, you have to be from that bloodline to be able to be taught those methods, and even most within that bloodline don't know. So, I mean, it is certainly fascinating. Now, the area that you're going to this weekend to camp again, is it the same area that you had the experience last time, or is it a different area of that set of woods?
It's a different area, but they're not that far apart because certain trails are closed off during the winter months. Maybe.
I mean, you do what you want to do, but I'm saying maybe you should try to make contact. Maybe go out and just sit, as Daniel has certainly, and I know I have, at night, and just try to communicate. Just simply talk to the open darkness and say, "Are you there? I would love the chance to speak with you. If there's someone or something out there that can hear my words, please come forward. I am not afraid. I would love the chance to speak with you." And that's the thing, and Daniel and I have talked about it numerous times on the show, that so many people say, "I've never had an experience. All that's bullshit." And I'm like, well, when's the last time you put yourself in a situation and opened yourself up to actually having an experience? And most people haven't. Well, I never go around that type of environment, or I never invited in. Well, then how do you expect to have that experience? But I guarantee you, folks, if you go out in the woods by yourself late at night, and you don't have to go by yourself, but I implore you to do so. Go by yourself, be smart about it, and sit somewhere away from everyone else and just ask the spirits of the forest, the spirits of the land, or the creatures of the forest to come forward and speak with you, and be true in your nature when you ask for it. And I guarantee you do it a handful of times, something will come forward that you've never thought existed, and it'll blow your mind. That is a promise. Do it a half a dozen times and be truthful with it. And if something doesn't happen, you let me know. But I'm guaranteeing if you truthfully have done it, it will. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, to just double back on that, I have had my own encounters with the Sasquatch, and what I found through channeling and communicating with them myself is that these beings, have soul family, and I would assume, I would guess that you're probably connected to them and on some sort of, spiritual
Hello?
level. Yeah, can you hear us?
That was creepy. Oh, my phone just went all staticky, and I heard something in my hallway.
Uh-oh. We spoke too soon, Daniel. We asked her to invite it in. It's here. I'm not sure what happened there. I didn't hear anything on my end, but you can still hear us, though, correct?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It stopped being all staticky.
Okay, good.
You are in good hands right now, okay? We specialize in what you're experiencing live on the air, okay? Everything's going to be fine.
I was just saying, I'm burning sage. It's fine.
Oh, but I was just going to say that you probably have some sort of spiritual lineage to these beings, some sort of family connection like I do with the Sasquatch, and that might be why you see them so often. So I wouldn't fear them. You could actually, like Frater said, invite, some sort of more deliberate conscious interaction. And whatever frequency you're putting out, whether that's fear or being more curious, that kind of is going to be what you're going to get back. But play with it, experiment a little bit while you're on your trip this weekend, and let us know what happens.
Yeah, please follow back up with us. Let us know if you have any experiences. We obviously do appreciate you coming on tonight and letting us know of the experiences that you have had. If anybody's out there listening and has had similar experiences, hit us up at celestialoddities@gmail.com and let us know what it is you've experienced, or ask to be on the show. We'd love to bring you back. But Sierra, once again, we really do want to thank you for coming on to the show tonight.
Oh, it's no problem.
Well, you have a wonderful evening, a safe and wonderful weekend, and hopefully it's filled with a lot of great experiences.
I'll take plenty of pictures and videos, and I'll send them to David. So.
Absolutely. If you catch anything, you let us know.
All right.
Well, listen, you have a wonderful night.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. So yeah, Daniel, I it always fascinates me. There's so much in our world around us that we just don't know. And like you said, who would have thought that these creatures are around here? Though I have actually heard of skinwalker experiences in Pennsylvania. It's rare, but I have had people talk about that before. So it always makes me wonder, though, do we all look at similar creatures and think they're different things? Or are there multiple different things? What one person might look as a skinwalker, we might look as a Sasquatch. What we might look as a Sasquatch, someone might look as the Boggy Creek Monster. There's a lot of different things that are similar, especially when you get into the terrain of bipedal ape-like beings. You have so many different beings out there that are very similar. And I use the Boggy Creek Monster as an example, because really, what is it? It's a stinky ape-like creature that's very reminiscent of Bigfoot. And there's so many across the country that have their own little town names for the creatures and cryptids that they've experienced, but most of them fall back to a very similar look and stance. Now, it is definitely different when you start getting into skinwalkers, because if you're talking what the Native Americans have, always coined the skinwalker, there's a completely different look to it, and they're very terrifying looking. So I find that fascinating to know, folks, that there could be something, here in Pennsylvania roaming around that is a skinwalker. So very, very interesting.
Yeah, man.
Let's take a look. We have a comment here. Just wanted to drop a note and say I've really enjoyed the show this season. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for your comment. We appreciate you tuning into our show. It has been a great season. If you missed any of the episodes this season, or even in the first season, jump back. I mean, Daniel and I have put out, I don't know, I'd say somewhere, we're almost at like 40-some episodes, I think, for this show. So pretty wild to think about. Let's take it to 100, brother. Now, we have another call we need to jump on here, so let me pull this individual up. Hopefully we have just as much luck on the second call as we had on the first. We were on fire. Second one, we have Sarah that we'll be bringing onto the line, so let's go ahead and try to give her a call. Let me pull up my phone here. And... boom, boom, boom. Hello, is this Sarah?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
It is. How are ya?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I can hear you.
And Daniel, can you hear Sarah?
Yes, I can. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel. How's it going?
So good. We love these. We love talking to you guys and hearing your stories. And so we hope that you have prepared something fun and interesting or spooky or crazy or like what's going on, Sarah? What is the experience that you have to share with us?
So I have a couple of different experiences. I guess I can start with my extraterrestrial experience. I've only had one of those, and it was a couple of years ago. It was 2016, And I was in my room, I was in my bed, and I had like woke up in the middle of the night, and there it was literally at the foot of my bed. And you know when you're kind of like in that like weird kind of lumbar sleep, but I was definitely awake, and I could see it at the foot of my bed. It was gray, and now mind you, it's like kind of dark in my room at that point, so it's the middle of the night, but I have light coming in from like a street light in the moonlight, shining through the window, so I could see in my room, just not vivid colors, obviously. But anyway, so I just kind of laid there still, just looking at it, and I could see it kind of moving its head, and I could hear it like telepathically, I don't know how else to explain it, but I could hear it telepathically, and as I was staring at it, it had thought that I was looking through it and realized that I was looking at it and was oh, kind of like oh my gosh, she is actually looking at me. And it started moving around, and it moved its head, and it lifted its hand up towards me, to reach out towards me. And I immediately went unconscious, back to sleep, just knocked right out. But I remembered absolutely everything. And it had entered my room through a shadow. And I realize that sounds crazy, but it's not how do I explain this? It was interdimensional, so it was able to just kind of come and enter my room, kind of through what would appear to be a shadow on your wall. So does that make sense?
It's not as crazy as you might think. Daniel and I, as I explained on the last call, we have different backgrounds of the paranormal and supernatural, but I speak on my background of the fact that I study and research and interact heavily with shadow beings, and shadow beings are also interdimensional beings, not exactly reminiscent of your alien greys or things of that nature, but they often will travel through a portal system that consists of shadow, where somehow they use what is regular shadows to us as interdimensional doorways to step through and step back through, and then they're gone. And a lot of times they also visit us in our sleep. They a lot of times have the capability of putting us back to sleep or putting us through sleep paralysis. And we often remember the experience, but then we're left with that feeling of, did it really happen, or did I just dream this and I'm just losing my mind, and it was so surreal? Did it really take place? So I find it fascinating, Dan, I'm sure you do as well, that they both are so similar. We hear a lot of different people calling in, or in our journeys, of people talking about having visitations from greys that are so very similar yet different to visitation from shadow beings. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I definitely, Sarah, just so you know, I work, with extraterrestrials, and so I'm very integrated into the sort of ET community. And one thing that I wanted to ask you, or tell you first, is basically there are a lot of positive and negative reasons that we have visitations by those particular sort of archetypal extraterrestrials, which is like the Zeta Reticuli archetype. And there are misconceptions about their physical appearance. There's actually over 200 variants of ET that look similar to that, and they all sort of have their own reasons for communicating and contacting us and interacting with us. And so the question that I wanted to ask you was, did you feel comfortable or safe, or did you feel more uncomfortable? That way we can help you determine if it was more of a positive or a negative interaction.
Yeah, I was completely calm. I was not scared or freaking out. I remember just being completely calm, and I just observed. Like, I was still and I was just watching it. And like I said, I could understand it telepathically. So like I could see that they were observing me, and
Sure.
then and like determining like, oh my God, she is actually looking at me. You know what I mean? So like, and not in those necessarily like words. It was more of like a telepathic knowing. So
one more question.
So
how tall was it?
Yeah. It was not tall. Like, it wasn't like necessarily short. It was just, I don't know, like the size of a normal man, I guess you would say. Like, but
was
thin,
was
but
was
thin.
it wearing like any sort of hood or cloak, or was it naked?
It was naked.
Okay.
It was just like a dark. It was just like a dark, like a dark gray being at the foot of my bed. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about it is the fact that in a lot of phone calls and stories that Daniel and I have heard of alien visitation, another thing that's very common is the fact of speaking to one another telepathically, where someone has woken up. A lot of cases, someone wakes up and they are in their room at the foot of their bed. It's a very common occurrence for the people who have had these experiences. And oftentimes there is no verbal language spoken between the two. It is done telepathically, no matter what type of alien race or being that it is. They seem to usually always share in the fact that they can speak to us telepathically and do so. And the other thing I really loved about your story is the fact that as it reached its hand out, you were instantly back asleep, because it puts you back asleep. It has the capability and power to instantly make you go back to a sleep state. And Daniel spoke about that before. So those are common occurrences that you do hear oftentimes in people who have had these visitations.
Yeah. Nice. Well, it's nice to know that like you're not the only one, and that you have like other people to like talk to who get it, you know, who understand and like could even give feedback. Like, that is awesome.
Absolutely. And, you know, I know that you and I are friends on Facebook, and when we have more time, if you want, we can chat a little bit about the reasons that you'll have these experiences. There's a variety of them, and they're not all bad. So I would love to maybe offer what information that I have. It might give you a little bit more insight on the experience.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I'm really curious because I also have I have clear abilities. So not only being
Awesome.
visited by like the extraterrestrial just at one time, but as far as like paranormal, like I have had visitation from my fiance's grandmother, who I have never met ever in real life. Like, and experiences with that, as well as a friend who passed away, and a girl who passed away at my parents' property. So I'm really kind of curious if it has anything to do kind of like with that, like if it's all intertwined and entangled somehow together.
Well, question for you, if I may. The abilities of starting to sense and being able to see, speak, and have clairaudience, clairvoyance, and clairsentience, abilities, did these come about after your visitation experience with the Gray, or was this something that's always kind of been a part of you and that just enhanced it? I mean, what's the timeline we're looking at here?
Yeah, that is such a great question. So it's something that I've always been able to do. Even as a kid, I used to, see things and hear things and say things to my parents, which, of course, when you're young, it really gets kind of blown off like, no, it's okay. Like, you're just seeing things, or that's not real, But as I got older, when I was a teenager, we had moved into my stepdad's house. And it was like an old farmhouse with this huge, mucky pond out in his yard. And I had seen a girl in my room, again, at the foot of my bed, and she was drenched. She was sopping wet, and she was just standing there. And of course, as a, like a young kid, like a teenager, like I immediately hid my head under my blankets and was terrified, wishing it would go away. And I'd peek out from underneath my blankets, and she was still standing there. And I can remember telling my parents, oh my gosh, this happened. And of course they laughed at me. They didn't believe me. They told me to stop. Well, lo and behold, I end up finding out a couple years later that there was a teenage girl that had drowned in that pond years before my stepdad had ever bought that house. And they knew that, and they didn't disclose that to me at all. So, so there was that. And then, but to your question, yes. So in 2016, I definitely, when I had that experience with the extraterrestrial, after that, I feel maybe I should backtrack. So I feel like I started going through a spiritual awakening around 2012. So I really kind of started meditating a lot, and I don't know, just kind of more becoming my authentic self and understanding energy and frequencies and vibrations and everything else. But after that experience with the extraterrestrial, I can definitely say that I started having more encounters with the paranormal, and more, I guess, understanding, where I stopped questioning myself and I just started listening. And then from there, it kind of, I guess, just grew, you could say.
Well, it's very good, because when you find your worth, you become worth more, not only to yourself, but to the forces that are around you. So when you start to go through spiritual awakening and shedding, and you dig deeper within yourself, you find that worth to your higher self. But the thing that happens is that things around you then notice that. Some are attracted to it for either, malevolent or for benevolent reasons. Some are attracted to it because you now just stand out to them. So one question I always beg, myself is, the visitation that you had, was it just simply because of the fact that, you were unfolding and becoming something greater, and it wanted to come down and kind of check it out for itself? Or were, these creatures or this creature itself taking an interest in you long before you even realized that it was? And maybe a lot of us who have special abilities, I often wonder, were we given these abilities from something else? And from time to time they check in on us to see how we handle that. Now, I do believe that everyone can tap into these abilities, but there are certainly people that you'll meet along the way that are far beyond the normal slight sensitivity. They have a much greater depth of sensitivity to certain things or another. I often wonder, was that given to us by something above us? And do they watch us throughout their life? Almost like an experiment, but I don't want to make it sound that way. So I often wonder that as well, is you started to really tap into yourself, and it's seen that you were using the abilities that it gave you. And it's just kind of checking in. So it's something certainly to kind of ponder on and to think about, especially in meditation.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I really like those questions that you're working with. That's a really good way to look at it. And yes, absolutely.
The deeper you dig, the more you'll find. I promise you that. So I work specifically myself with spirits, and when I started to unfold myself and have a spiritual awakening and really start to dig in and put myself in situations that are out of the normal to communicate, I notice, as I was talking to the last caller about, more things will come out to talk with you, and things that just seem so mind-blowingly not possible become much more prevalent. And some of us out there, what we see on a daily or weekly basis seems like fantasy to others, but it becomes very, very normal. And it's a blessing. It's humbling. And a big part of that is just accepting, as you said, not questioning, but accepting.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dan, any last thoughts on this scenario?
Well, no, I'm very interested in the fact that you mentioned that you experienced the clairs. So I'm clairsentient, and I have always have been as long as I can remember being like a teenager. And I also wanted to double back on your spiritual awakening, which I actually had mine in 2012 as well. Nice. And it seems to be a really popular catalyst to people's awakenings, because mine was like super intense, super fast, super hard, 2012, and ever since then I've been unraveling more. But yeah, I'm definitely clairsentient, and I was wondering if if you're conscious and you exercise any of those abilities more deliberately. Like oftentimes I play with being a medium and just sort of accepting and letting any of the psychic abilities that I have naturally happen to me. But clairsentience would definitely be the strongest sense that I have. So I don't know if you experiment with those, but people who are more consciously aware of their clair abilities or being a medium and having any of those extrasensory sort of abilities, they do tend to have more of awareness when we have extraterrestrial encounters like the one that you had when you woke up. So many of us have those experiences, but we don't remember them because there is a type of amnesia that sets in, which is a type of technology. But those who are more into the spiritual aspects of their abilities, they tend to remember more. So I was curious, just before we let you go, if you consciously exercise any of those abilities of yours.
I have been trying to. So when it comes to clairaudient, that's something that I've noticed that I've been able to kind of tap in more easily to. Like it that one comes a little bit more natural. But my clairvoyance, I feel like that one's still kind of like a wild card for me. Like it will literally hit me out of nowhere when I don't expect it, like at the most random times. It doesn't always have to be, when I'm in that like relaxed state, like in bed. There will be times when I am maybe, like meditating, where I will get, I'll be able to see things clearly. But as far as pulling it up as quickly as I can, like clairaudient, it's still, I feel like it's still like a work in progress. I feel like I'm constantly, just growing and trying to learn more about myself, and tap into it, more.
No, that's very cool. And just like a muscle, exercising these things and being more conscious of when they happen naturally always makes them stronger and more deliberate if it's something that you're interested to explore. I think that many of us have these abilities, whether or not we give attention to them is a big factor in their, efficacy. So that's really cool. I mean, listen, we appreciate you calling in and sharing your story. Let's keep in touch about the alien thing, and I'll tell you what I know.
Oh, wonderful. That would be great. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem.
Yeah,
we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for your stories, and good luck with you and everything.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, you guys. You guys have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. No, fascinating. I mean, like I said, Daniel, during the call, it seems so often that there's, and that was kind of the point of the show and our cataloging of information, is there's so many interconnecting webs between stories that, whether it be different cryptids or creatures, there's oftentimes a commonality amongst the things people are experiencing, and it makes you start to really ponder on different questions. Are all these creatures somehow, as I mentioned after the first call, interconnected? They might be different things, but somehow interconnected from the same source. Or something I've often asked, and I always find to be enthralling, is what if all of these things are the same exact thing, but to our consciousness, they appear as completely different things?
The interpretation changes, absolutely. I think
there's
a lot
our
of
channel. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. You see them as Bigfoots or alien beings. I see them as spirits. Someone else sees them as skinwalkers. But all it is some type of frequency wave of energy. And when it hits our brain, it comes across to us for some reason as whatever it comes across as.
The translation process is different, almost as if their physical appearance or their existence even at all is filtered through our own egos, our own belief structures, our own perceptions, our own level of conscious awareness, and the translation process makes them look and sound and behave differently to each of us as individuals, but they're all one and the same.
Exactly. It's like an open world video game. Everybody plays the same game, but everybody's game is completely different because the path you have chosen to go, the character that you have built, the choices you have made, all program your character to exactly who they are. Therefore, they experiencing everything completely different, even though it's the same. And I often wonder that with ghosts, with aliens, with cryptids, whatever it might be, I'm like, are we all experiencing the same things, just completely different, as you said, because of our own programming
and our filters? Listen, we want to try to get to one more call tonight, and before we do that, I want to just I love this topic. I love it so much. If you guys are listening, I gotta get a little meta. It is said that in dreams, in the dream realm, in the dreamscape, which is more of an astral reality than our physical 3D reality, that the language of dreams is symbolism and metaphor. And when you experience something in the dream state, whether it's like something happens to you, or you meet a new person, or you travel somewhere, you do something bad happens, something good happens, we all take these experiences for face value. But it's actually the brain and the ego's way of translating something entirely different, because dream speak is metaphorical, and it is in terms of metaphors, everything is symbolism. So what you're seeing might actually be a totally different thing, filtered through our own programming, like Frater said. Now, it is also said that life itself is another dream. It is another aspect of the dream. And if that's the case, if dream speak is metaphor and symbolism, then so is our physical reality, which could be why all of these things appear differently or come across differently. And some experiences are positive and negative, but really it's all the same thing being filtered through our own unique translation process.
A dream inside a dream reflected off a mirror, brother.
Yeah, man, I love it. So let's see if this last caller still wants to play with us.
All right, so we're going to make one more phone call, folks. This gentleman goes by the name of Nightmare Narrative, and we're giving him a call now. All right. You get to hear it in the same time we do, folks. You're hearing what we're hearing. All right, well, I went ahead and ended that one. He is not answering. We'll give him a minute, maybe try him one more time. But no, that is very symbolic, because one thing I find hard for people to do is you have people who say, I'm a dream interpretive specialist. And everyone's entitled to their own beliefs, but I find it hard to believe someone can interpret my dreams, Daniel's dreams, your dreams out there, folks, with all the same symbolism and meaning. Because your program and what you have programmed for yourself over the time of being in this manifestation might mean something completely different than mine. The symbols that you see in your dream certainly mean something to you, and they can tell you things to come, and they can be prophetic. That's fine. But what you see a horseshoe meaning in your dream might not be what it means in mine. And there's people out there say, oh, you've seen this is what it means. Well, how do you know that? You know what it means to you, or you know what you've studied from book context and from writings. But I believe everyone's program is different because we all experience different things in our life to make us exactly who we are in this exact moment. So everyone can believe that, differently on that. I know some people say, oh, they're a dream, someone's a dream specialist. They can tell you exactly what your dreams mean. And maybe that's true. Maybe I'm wrong. But I always found that I don't really think anyone can but yourself. And you sometimes have to really do some digging before you figure out what your own dreams mean. But I don't know if I would ever listen to someone else tell me what my dreams mean.
I understand that you might be able to study and track themes and common reoccurrences that may, in a sense, have a common theme in terms of their meaning. But I think everything is subjective, much more so than people think.
Exactly. No, I agree. Let's try this gentleman one more time. I also, folks, for our calls, we either do actual phone calls or Skype calls. Skype gives the best quality. Usually, not always. Sometimes phone calls are fine. We did a phone call tonight. It sounded great. Sometimes they sound like a phone call. Sounds like you're in a walkie-talkie. So I also waved at this gentleman, and it looks like he has not seen or answered back yet. So I'm not feeling good about the third call, which does happen, and that's okay. But we'll try one more time. And what I'll do, instead of you guys hearing the ringing, I will just mute that channel. I'll hear it while I'm talking to you guys. And we'll see if he answers or not. It's looking like it might be a no-go, but that's okay. We had 2 great callers this evening. We can always pick back up next season with some other great episodes, which I think we're going to do a lot more of these, as Daniel and I have talked about, throughout this season, is that we're going to go ahead and start doing more call-in episodes. I would like to really scatter season 3, equally as 1/3 deep diving into content matter, 1/3 call-ins, and 1/3 interview. So, maybe we do, 24 episodes or whatever have you, and we do 8 of each. We'll figure that out. But that's where you guys and gals come in. Let us know what it is you want to hear, what you want to see us do, who you want to see us bring on the show and interview, and we will certainly do our best to try to achieve that. Some things are obtainable. I've had people drop guests, that I just don't see it happening, but I will more than happily message a page, but some of the names were pretty big that I'm like, I don't know if they would come on our show, but maybe someday. So we'll certainly do what we can on our end, but we do want to thank you guys so much for a wonderful second season. Daniel and I, quite a while back talked about doing this together, and it was just a thought that became a reality, that became 2 seasons of amazing content. I mean, you're talking like 30-some hours of conversation and fun between 2 buds, just, kicking it together, talking some supernatural, wild, metaphysical content, and, we've gotten a massive and great response from all of you, so thank you so much.
Yeah, guys, listen, we love doing this. We love interacting with you, and honestly, we just love kind of like expressing ourselves, and this is how we do it. We thank you guys for being, a platform, a vehicle for ours to explore our own journeys and have these discussions with you and share. So a few special announcements. One thing I will double back on the call-in episodes is if you would like to participate but you don't want to come on the air. A lot of people value their anonymity. If you don't want to have your name featured or showcased, you can also send in your own stories and live on the air, and that way your privacy is intact, but you still get to share. So that's another option that's available to those who want to be part of the call-in episodes, and Frater and I will be happy to read your story. Another thing I would like to say is I highly suggest you guys go back through our database. It is public, and you can read the title of all of our previous episodes, and we cover a wide variety of things, everything from mermaids and sea creatures to aliens and extraterrestrial encounters, paranormal encounters, urban legends, and lore. We share stories about, suppressed technology and the secret space program. So there's a lot there for you guys to explore and investigate as we take a little break going into season 3. And what you guys can expect from us when we come back right here after the holidays is we will have a new, cool little short advertisement commercial for you guys that Frater and I will be working on over here the next month or two. We have a 20-minute documentary, which I have been talking about for the last year, that we will be finishing up and getting ready for you guys by the launch of season 3. And then I also have my other podcast, which is That's So Meta, that I do with my partner Lauren, and we do one or two episodes a month, and it's general metaphysical talk and discussion, and we do some lectures and some exercises as well. So if you guys would like to come hang out with Lauren and I, we will be putting out a new episode here probably Monday of this coming week, so you can check that out on my YouTube channel, which is just Daniel James on YouTube. And other than that, I think that will go ahead and close out season 2. I have had so much fun exploring myself and talking to Frater and hearing your guys' stories, and I want to thank you guys for being here with us. And when we come back in season 3, we'll have even more to share with you.
Absolutely, and I just counted while Daniel was talking, and tonight's episode was episode 38. So 38 episodes under our belt, so we'll be hitting in the 40 and 50 episode range next season for sure. Maybe even make it to 60, depending upon how many we decide to do in this season. As I said, the way it's looking is I probably will not be doing either of my other 2 radio shows. Haven't fully decided. I am ending Nights of the Nephilim. Sadly, it's a toxic culture out there in the occult. I will never quit doing ritual and quit doing metaphysical works, but it is a fucking garbage dump heap in that scene, and I just refuse to be a part of it openly because it's too clouded with people who are insane. So with that being said, you will not be seeing that anymore. Uncovering the Underground I have yet to decide on, but stay tuned to everything that I'm doing, that Daniel's doing. You can follow us on our Facebooks or on our Celestial Oddities group page. You can hit us up on our email at celestialoddities@gmail.com, and we'll be coming back next season, as Daniel said, with some great new content and some great stories. For instance, this weekend I am going to Indiana State Sanatorium on 500 acres of land in the middle of the forest in Indiana State, one of the highly most active and paranormal locations in the country, and I will be spending the night myself sleeping in an insane asylum. It will be lovely. So I'm sure I'll have some great stories for you guys when we come back next season. And other than that, Daniel, as you said, it's been a wonderful season, just deep diving into some great things. And as always, I appreciate you, brother.
Right on, man. Hey, listen, big love, and I love you guys, and it's all love, and thank you guys very much for being on this journey with us.
All right, folks, we'll catch you next time, next season on Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys podcast. Have a great night.